In junior hockey, you're always going to get that team that surprises everyone with their hot start. And the Niagara IceDogs were that team. They had that 8-2 start. And the question right off the hop was, can this team maintain that momentum? They were challenging for first in the Central Division. They're actually first for a good portion of the first half of the 2024-25 season. But as the season went on, the OHL trade deadline, no moves, they stood pat. This is a team looking to the future, and since then we've started to see that steady decline. And right now the team in a tailspin. They're on a 10-game losing streak, and I think they're still going to make the playoffs, but with only a few games remaining in the regular season, there's some questions about whether or not this team can hold on to a playoff spot, because there hasn't been playoff hockey in St. Catharines since 2019. So, Ice Dogs fans desperate to make the postseason. So I wanted to take a look at this 10-game losing streak, as it is a bit of a surprise just seeing this Niagara Ice Dogs team playing the way they are. Obviously, health has been an issue. Owen Flores has missed the last few games after suffering a knee injury. They also had Kevin He miss a portion of this losing streak due to suspension. So there's a lot of factors contributing to this 10-game losing streak, but I wanted to do a bit of a deep dive looking at the Ice Dogs. Now, this losing streak started February 1st. They have yet to win a game in the month of February, and this weekend, well, we're wrapping up the month. It is one of the shorter months on the calendar, so for Niagara, 180 in the win column pretty quick. So that first loss that started this losing streak was an overtime defeat to the Barrie Colts on the road. 7-6 was the final, and that game was pretty back and forth. Niagara did play Barrie really well in that hockey game, and then going into North Bay the following night, they lost in a shootout by a score of 4-3. So they had points. You get the loser point, so that's going to help you in your standings. At that point, they were still challenging for first in the Central Division. But then February 7th, they lose 7-3 at home to the Sudbury Wolves. And that was a sign that maybe things just aren't right with the Niagara Ice Dogs. They would then lose 9-1 to the Kitchener Rangers, as back on February 8th. February 12th, they lose in a shootout 2-1 on the road against the Erie Otters, and then the 10-1 loss on Valentine's Day in Brantford. And then they're home on the 16th against the Brantford Bulldogs, and they lose that one 5-4, and that's the game where Owen Flores went down with his injury. That one also, they were behind, and they battled back, as it was all Brantford for the first half of that hockey game, and then the Ice Dogs chipped away at that lead. They fell short, but the big thing then was Owen Flores. And then on February 17th, so Family Day, they were shut out 6-0 by the Brampton Steelheads. Then they lose this past weekend to the 67s, 6-2 on the road, and then 6-3 in Kingston. And that's where we stand on this 10-game losing streak. When you look at the standings right now, they're right now sitting sixth in the Eastern Conference standings. A record of 27, 22, 3, and 4. Good for 61 points. They're 2 points back of the Brampton Steelheads, who just passed them for fifth. And they're 11 points back of the Barrie Colts for first in the Central Division. So home ice seeming less and less likely for the Niagara Ice Dogs in the first round of the postseason. But then when you look in the rearview mirror, the Sudbury Wolves, they're a team that's been struggling as well. They're 4 points back of the Niagara Ice Dogs, and then the North Bay Battalion, who've been playing much better hockey of late, they're 11 points back of Niagara. And so the North Bay Battalion, of course, they're eighth. So the team in ninth, the Ottawa 67s, well, there's quite a gap between Niagara and Ottawa. So that's why I say that Niagara should still make the playoffs. I don't think that's in question. They just have to mathematically clinch that playoff spot. But still, as this team continues to lose, they're looking at a very tough opponent in the opening round. If the playoffs started today, they would have to play the Oshawa Generals, and that is not an easy opponent. Remember, Oshawa went all the way to the OHL final last year. Now, I wanted to break it down and looking at the stats of the players contributing over their last 10 games. Andre Loshko, he leads the team in scoring over the last 10 games. 5 goals, 5 assists, 10 points. And then it drops off a bit. Jack Browdy, the defenseman, 2 goals, 5 assists, 7 points, second in scoring. And then Kevin He, just 1 goal and 6 assists over this 10-game losing streak. Remember, Kevin He did miss the start of this losing streak due to suspension. And then Sean Doherty, though, 5 goals over the last 10 games, but he did get a hat trick in the game against the Barrie Colts. Ryan Robrick, a little quiet, 3 goals, 2 assists, 5 points over this 10-game losing streak. Ethan Zada, 5 assists. Mike Levin, 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 points. A little surprised with Levin's performance over the last 10 games. Kind of thought you'd get a little more offense out of him, to try and turn things around. And then you have Ivan Gallianov, a goal, 2 assists. Matthew Paris, who's back from injury, a goal and 2 assists. Blake Aerosmith, 1 goal, 1 assist. Noah Van Vliet, a goal and an assist. But I am a little surprised by Van Vliet. You'd think he'd have a few more assists. And maybe the veteran defenseman. I know he's more of a stay-at-home defenseman, but you would think, being the veteran on this team, that maybe he would, take that step to try and turn things around. Brady Watson, the rookie, just 2 assists over the 10-game losing streak. Matthew Virgilio, also just 2 assists. Then you've got Andrew Wysick. He has just 1 goal. Alex Asadorian, back from injury. He has just 1 goal. And Max Crete, Charles Hoddles, Callum Shanowski, and Rafik Dayanov, all just 1 assist during this 10-game losing streak. And then when you look at the goaltending, Owen Flores, he was in net for those the first 5 games. He has a save percentage of 790. And I know I did the video back at the three-quarter mark report card for the OHL. And I was kind of wondering with some of these goaltenders maybe playing a little too much minutes. And Owen Flores is one of those goaltenders that was getting a lot of ice time. You got to wonder if fatigue was becoming a factor. His save percentage in those 5 games, 790. Well off what we expect from Owen Flores. And then Matthew Humphreys, who's been thrown into action in 8 games. He's appeared in 8 games during this 10-game losing streak, and he has an 829 save percentage. So not bad for Humphreys, who's a rookie netminder, but still, it's pretty tough going right now for this Niagara IceDogs team. So then you have to wonder, okay, when is this losing streak going to come to an end? Well, their next few games here are going to be some pretty tough opponents. Wednesday, they're in Owen Sound. The Attack, they're playing desperate hockey right now, trying to clinch a playoff spot in the Western Conference. At the time of recording, they're tied with Sault Ste. Marie for 8th in the West. And then the Ice Dogs, they're back home Thursday. They're going to face the Erie Otters. Erie, a team that's trying to clinch a playoff spot in the West. That's not going to be an easy matchup. And then they have the London Knights. That's on Saturday. And of course, the Knights, the top team in the Ontario Hockey League. So going into the month of March, this team could be looking at a 13-game losing streak if they can't turn things around. They need to start showing that desperate play. And going back to what we saw from the Niagara IceDogs in the first half of the season, where everyone was buying in. Yes, the core was kind of leading the way with Kevin He and Ryan Robrick. Waslin was contributing. Loshko has been great in the faceoff circle. So we know that this team has a core that can help out. But it's the health that's been the big factor. Maybe with Alex Asadorian being back, he's scored in bunches. Maybe he's the guy that will be counted upon to try and turn things around, because the schedule, it's not too bad, but they do have some key opponents coming up. And when I talk about trying to clinch that playoff spot in the East, they do have 2 meetings left with the North Bay Battalion, who are 8th right now in the Eastern Conference. One more meeting with the Ottawa 67s, who are 9th in the East. That game is going to be on March 20th. And then you've got top teams like Kingston. We've got Barrie, the Brampton Steelheads. They've been playing a lot better. So it's not going to get any easier between now and the playoffs. And for Niagara, if they're going to have a successful first-round matchup, they need to get some momentum, some positive momentum going forward. So I do think this is a really good Niagara IceDogs team going forward. Maybe not necessarily this year. We'll see them go on a deep playoff run, but this is a team I think that's going to be very dangerous next year. I love the core of this team. Kevin He leads this team both on and off the ice, and I feel like this team will take another big step next season, much like we saw this year. So I wanted to do a bit of a deep dive on this tough stretch right now for the Niagara IceDogs. A lot of people were wondering when this team would drop off from contention for first place in the Central Division, and it just came a lot later than many had expected, which kudos to the Niagara IceDogs, exceeding expectations this year and bringing a lot more excitement to the junior hockey market in the city of St. Catharines. So that's how I see it from the booth. Let me know in the comments section down below your thoughts on the Niagara IceDogs. How much longer does this losing streak go, or do they quickly turn it around on their first game back on the ice on Wednesday against Owen Sound? Love seeing the interaction. Thank you very much for all your support. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Talk to you soon.